A librettist is somebody who writes the words for the composer to set. So when a composer decides to write an opera and looks for a librettist, what he's looking for is someone who can write a book which will contain enough information for him to set musically.
So it's one thing to create a libretto, but essentially this libretto has to be at the service of a musicalised world.
In a libretto, we will find things which are rhymed, we will find things which are prose, we will find things which are just straight story. When we decide to make an opera, we decide to put an opera on, then I'll look for a director. That is to say, someone who will move the singers around the stage, understand the story, direct the plot.
And making the people recognisably human, because I mean, like all good theatre, you've still got to recognise, for it to work, the audience has to recognise something in themselves, in what's happening on stage.
Then the director and I, together, will talk about a designer. And we might have the designer to do just the scenery, or we might have a designer for the scenery and a designer for the costumes.
When I see the opera, my favourite thing about seeing it is the costumes and the set. And of course the beautiful voices, but I really love that there's so much detail and so much things happening in the different layers and bright and colourful.
I suppose each time you approach a text, whether it's a play or an opera or whatever it is, inevitably it's going to be, you're going to come at it from a different angle.
So the designer, director and I talk about what is the style we want to do this.
One of the greater challenges is to provide the audience with a clear understanding of the narrative. And this is one of my first objectives.
Hat man nicht in seinen Händen 100.000, 100.000 Hunderlei, 100.000 Hunderlei, 100.000 Hunderlei, hat man nicht mit seinen...
Do we want to set it in the 20th century? Do we want to mix it? Do we want to say, have some of the costumes looking like fantasy costumes and not necessarily in a period? Or do we want to set it in half classical, half ancient? So all of these decisions are made in conjunction with each other. Director, designer, conductor, we all talk about this. Then they go away and they come back with ideas, they come back with concepts. And we have what's called a white card. And the white card is the first sketches of how the show is going to look. Then we bring in a lighting designer. And a lighting designer has a look and says, well, I can light this, and you'll need this sort of light for this, and you'll need that sort of light for that. Then it begins. We start building the costumes. We start building the sets. We start rehearsing the opera goes on the floor, and we have about 4 weeks, if we're lucky, on the floor. Then we go into the theatre, and all of these elements come together. Design, costume, lighting, props, singers, orchestra, all come together. So the process can take, in total, about 2 years. From concept to stage.
Tanque